The story begins in Tokyo, where the Suzuki family lives in a suburban apartment. Their family life is far from normal. Mitsu, the mother, is talking to her father Sasaki on the phone. He has recently sent them a box filled with fresh vegetables and fish and wishes that the family would visit him more often. Mitsu asks her daughter Yui to speak with her grandfather, but Yui refuses. Instead, she complains about the strong smell coming from the fish. After the call ends, Mitsu tries to prepare the fish for dinner, but she finds it too disgusting to handle. Her husband Yoshiyuki doesn't want to touch it either, so they simply put the fish into the freezer. A little later, the family notices what looks like a bug crawling on the vegetables. Everyone becomes disgusted and starts panicking. However, they don't realize that the supposed bug is actually one of Yui's fake eyelashes. Yoshiyuki doesn't care much about what's happening. He keeps asking about the food, while Yui remains completely focused on her phone. Mitsu eventually has to deal with the problem herself. Soon, their son Kenji arrives home. He doesn't greet anyone and keeps his headphones on. When Mitsu asks whether he wants dinner, Kenji simply shows her the fast food he bought and immediately goes to his room. Inside their rooms, both siblings spend almost all their time looking at screens. Mitsu becomes worried about their expensive smartphone bills and asks Yoshiyuki to talk to the children about it. But Yoshiyuki is too busy watching television and barely pays attention. The next morning, Yoshiyuki wakes up late because his alarm didn't ring. When he checks the clock, he notices that its hands are stuck at 3. Mitsu then tells him that there has been a blackout. At the same time, she throws the frozen fish away. Yui soon wakes up and panics when she realizes that her phone has no battery left. Mitsu tries to prepare breakfast, but the electric rice cooker and stove aren't working. She manages to use a gas burner, but the family doesn't want to wait and leaves the apartment without eating. They soon discover that the elevator isn't working either, forcing everyone in the building to walk down several flights of stairs. At the station, they find that the trains have stopped as well. Since nobody knows when they will start again, Yoshiyuki has no choice but to walk to his office. Meanwhile, Kenji rides his bicycle toward college and notices that his phone battery has also died unusually quickly. The streets are strangely quiet because cars have stopped working 2 to T the same time. Even a taxi driver fails to restart his car despite trying different methods. Back at the apartment, Mitsu talks with the neighbors, who confirm that the entire area has lost power. The women decide to go shopping for candles, but Mitsu realizes that she has left her wallet inside. Meanwhile, Yoshiyuki finally reaches his company, only to find everyone standing outside because the electronic doors won't open. 2 employees break the glass so they can enter. Once inside, they take the stairs to their offices, but there is nothing they can do because the lights and computers aren't working. At Yui's school, many students arrive late and nobody has a working phone. Several teachers are also unable to come, so many classes are moved to the study hall. Kenji faces the same situation at college. Mitsu then visits a grocery store and discovers that most ready-made food has already disappeared from the shelves. People are buying candles and water in huge quantities, so she quickly starts collecting supplies too. At the checkout, the employees announce that cards cannot be used during the blackout, meaning everyone must pay with cash. The customers immediately rush toward the ATMs, but those machines are useless. Yoshiyuki spends several hours at the office with nothing to do until his boss finally tells everyone to go home early. Yoshiyuki refuses to walk all the way back again, so he decides to buy a bicycle. But because almost everyone suddenly needs one, the prices have increased dramatically. He has no choice but to pay the expensive price. When he finally reaches his apartment building, he notices an elderly woman sitting on the stairs. She is completely exhausted after climbing so many floors. Evening, the Suzuki family has dinner by candlelight. Yoshiyuki insists on continuing his work with a pen and paper even though the situation is getting worse. Basic household tasks have also become difficult. Whenever someone uses the toilet, they have to manually flush it by carrying water from the bathtub. There is no running water in the kitchen either, so Mitsu can't even wash the dishes. Meanwhile, Yui tries reading a magazine near the candle, but gets too close to the flame and accidentally burns her hair. Tired of staying inside their rooms, the siblings finally come outside. Mitsu then asks everyone to join her on the balcony. With the entire city completely dark, they get an incredible view of the night sky filled with stars. 2 days later, the electricity still hasn't returned. Mitsu starts washing clothes by hand using water from the bathtub. At school, Yui finds only a few students and decides to leave. At Yoshiyuki's office, his boss announces that the company will remain closed until power is restored. Yoshiyuki then watches his boss leave Tokyo with his family, hoping to find food and water in the mountains. When he turns around, he catches a man trying to steal his bicycle and quickly scares him away. Meanwhile, Kenji rides to another town hoping to find the girl he likes, only to discover that the blackout has affected that place too. When he sees the girl leaving with her family, he hides instead of approaching her. His bicycle falls over and injures his foot while he watches them disappear. Meanwhile, Mitsu and several neighbors gather outside a water treatment facility, hoping to collect some clean water. They wait for hours, but eventually the workers announce that the plant has been shut down because the pumps are no longer functioning. Although there is water underground, it hasn't been treated and could be dangerous to drink, so the workers refuse to let people collect it. The frustrated crowd starts protesting and demanding help to AT the bank. Yoshiyuki learns that ATMs and debit cards are useless during the blackout. The only way to withdraw money is by showing an ID along with a bank passbook. Even then, each person is allowed to take out only around $600. As people become desperate, they begin pushing and shoving to get inside first. During the chaos, Yoshiyuki drops his documents. When he bends down to pick them up, people accidentally hurt him, leaving him with a bleeding nose. He quickly escapes from the crowd. By the 7th day without electricity, the situation in Tokyo has become much worse. Grocery stores are almost completely empty, schools remain closed, and people traveling to nearby towns in search of food and water discover that those places are facing the same crisis. More and more residents start leaving Tokyo, hoping the countryside will offer better chances of survival. After another pointless meeting with their neighbors, Yoshiyuki and Mitsu decide to check on the elderly woman from their building. They haven't seen her for some time, and when they finally visit her apartment, they discover that she has died. Her family soon arrives to take her body away. This shocking experience makes Yoshiyuki and Mitsu realize that they can no longer stay in Tokyo. The couple decides to take the children and travel to Sasaki's village. Yui immediately complains because she thinks village life will be boring. Mitsu reminds her that she once loved playing on the village beach when she was younger, but Yui doesn't even remember it. The family then starts packing everything they can carry before beginning their long journey out of the city. The family finishes packing and gathers all the cash they can find. Mitsu then reveals that she has saved a good amount of money for emergencies. Just before leaving the apartment, they hear an abandoned dog barking nearby but decide not to stop. Yui and Kenji have their own bicycles while Mitsu has to share one with Yoshiyuki. The family begins traveling toward the airport and sees many people leaving Tokyo on foot. Along the way, they find people selling food and water at extremely high prices, but Yoshiyuki refuses to pay such ridiculous amounts. As they move farther away, the prices become even higher. Eventually, they stop at a store where Mitsu manages to negotiate with the shopkeeper and gets a better price for a large amount of supplies. The family takes a short break to eat and recover. The siblings notice a man catching a huge number of fish from the river, but they still find the fish disgusting. Later, they try using a public bathroom, but the smell is unbearable because the toilets have not been flushed for several days. They have no choice but to use the bushes nearby. When the family finally reaches the airport, they find a huge crowd gathered outside. The planes are not working either, and the police try to keep everyone away with a barrier. Some people become furious and attack the officers while others simply leave. That evening, the family stays at a nearby motel even though the room costs far more than usual. Yoshiyuki tells everyone that they will continue toward the village by bicycle. The next morning, Kenji and Yui break into a library looking for a map, but almost every map has already been taken. They find only a children's map, and Kenji calculates that reaching the village could take nearly a month by bicycle. Meanwhile, Yoshiyuki and Mitsu look for another bicycle for her and eventually find one outside a rice shop. The shopkeeper refuses to accept cash or expensive items and only wants useful supplies in return. After some negotiation, the couple manages to exchange several bottles of alcohol for a bicycle and a bag of rice. Once the family continues their journey, they keep finding roads that are closed or blocked. Yoshiyuki realizes that the children's map is almost useless. They finally decide to take the expressway because nobody is collecting tolls anymore. On the highway, they see hundreds of people leaving Tokyo and heading toward safer areas. After traveling for some time, the family stops near a shopping mall to rest, but the doors are locked, so they have to spend the night outside. During the night, a desperate couple approaches them and asks if they can spare some water. Mitsu quickly hides their bottles while Yoshiyuki tells the couple that they have nothing left. The cold weather makes it difficult for everyone to sleep. Later, Kenji notices a man trying to steal their water and immediately follows him into a tunnel. Just as Kenji is about to confront him, he notices that the man is carrying a baby. Realizing that the thief is only trying to keep his child alive, Kenji decides to let him take the water. The next morning, the family prepares to cross the tunnel and finds a group of blind women waiting at the entrance. They offer to guide travelers through the darkness for money. Since the tunnel looks like a straight road, the family initially ignores them and continues ahead. But soon the darkness causes serious problems as they keep crashing into abandoned cars and stepping on disgusting things, including a dead raccoon. Eventually, they turn back and pay one of the blind women to guide them. She easily leads the family through the tunnel and safely brings them to the other side. On the 16th day of the blackout, the family stops near a river to rest and wash some clothes. Their supply of matches is almost finished and they are also running out of water. Despite everyone's warnings, Yoshiyuki decides to drink directly from the river. Later that afternoon, a powerful rainstorm suddenly hits the area and the family has to take shelter beneath a bridge. Strong winds scatter their bicycles and belongings across the field. Yoshiyuki suddenly runs away from the others because the dirty river water has given him severe diarrhea. After the storm passes, the family starts collecting everything that was blown away. Mitsu discovers that her glasses are cracked, while the rice has fallen onto the dirty ground. One of the bicycle tires is also completely damaged. Since Yoshiyuki is still feeling sick, they decide to head toward the nearest town. While their parents rest, Kenji and Yui break into a supermarket to search for supplies. Unfortunately, almost everything useful has already been taken. There is no food left, and they cannot find matches or replacement tires either. The only things they manage to take are a flare, some cat food, and battery liquid, which turns out to be purified water and is safe to drink. When they return to the campsite, Yui tries the cat food but immediately spits it out because of its terrible taste. Kenji has no proper tools to repair his bicycle, so he uses his silicone phone case to fix the damaged tire. As the days pass, the family slowly becomes accustomed to their new life. They continue dealing with the rain and survive by eating whatever food they can find. During their next stop, they meet the Saito family, who seem much better prepared for life without electricity. They have experience traveling through mountains and camping outdoors, so they teach the Suzukis several useful survival techniques. The Saito family shows them how to collect water from rocks covered with moss and explains how food can be dried so it lasts longer. They also teach them which wild plants can be eaten and even suggest eating cycas. One of the Saito boys owns an old mechanical camera that still works, and he takes a photograph of the Suzuki family. Yui gives him their address so he can send them a copy later. After spending time together, both families decide to continue the journey as a group. Mitsu and the children quickly become comfortable with the Saito family and appreciate all the survival advice they receive. Yoshiyuki, however, becomes jealous of them and starts riding his bicycle faster, as if he wants to prove himself. Later, while the families are resting near a bridge, they notice several soldiers passing by. A man explains that the soldiers came from a nuclear power plant that had also stopped working. They are heading toward another prefecture to inspect a different plant. After some discussion, the two families decide to separate because the Suzukis want to travel toward Osaka. They have heard rumors that electricity may have returned there. On the 43rd day, the family finally reaches Osaka but discovers that the city is also without power. Yui becomes extremely worried because their food and water supplies are almost gone. An argument breaks out between the family members, and they eventually agree that Yoshiyuki has not been doing enough to take care of them. While exploring the city, they suddenly discover crowds of people eating fish outside an aquarium. The aquarium workers are giving away the animals as food because there is no other way to keep them alive. The family immediately rushes to join the line, hoping to get something to eat. Unfortunately, by the time they reach the front, all the available food has already been taken. Their situation becomes even more desperate as their journey continues. By the 67th day, the Suzuki family has become completely exhausted and they eventually collapse while traveling through the countryside. Yoshiyuki becomes so desperate for food that he grabs a bug and is about to eat it when he suddenly notices a pig nearby. The whole family works together and manages to surround the animal. After a long struggle, Yoshiyuki finally succeeds in killing the pig. Once the animal rolls down the hill, neither Yoshiyuki nor Mitsu wants to cut it open, so Kenji is given the knife. Before he can do anything, Farmer Tanaka arrives and quickly cuts the pig's neck without hesitation. The family then carries the dead pig to Tanaka's house, where they are able to drink fresh water from his well. Tanaka explains that his electric fences stopped working during the blackout and all his pigs escaped from the farm. He offers the family food if they help him catch the pigs and bring them back. The Suzukis agree to help. Tanaka prepares a large breakfast for them, which includes smoked pork. After surviving for so long on poor food, the meal tastes incredible and Yui becomes emotional and starts crying. Soon a neighbor arrives with some vegetables and Tanaka asks the family to help him butcher the pig. Although everyone feels disgusted by the process, they continue because they need the food to survive. The meat is eventually cut into smaller pieces and covered with salt so it can be preserved for a long time. Later, the family wants to take a bath, but there is no normal water supply. They have to carry buckets from the well and heat the water using a fire made from wood. That night, Tanaka gives the family some pajamas that he had bought for his son's family. His relatives now live in America and he has no way to contact them. Yoshiyuki and Mitsu realize how lucky they are to still have their children beside them and fall asleep holding hands. For the next few days, the Suzuki family stays with Tanaka and becomes familiar with farm life. They spend their time helping with different chores and slowly learn how to survive without modern conveniences. The children even start enjoying the work. Yui learns how to sew from Mitsu while Mitsu continues washing clothes by hand. Yoshiyuki spends his time chopping wood and Kenji gets better equipment to repair his bicycle. The family also helps Tanaka chase after the pigs that escaped from his farm. Seeing how useful they have become, Tanaka asks the Suzukis to stay with him because he hates living alone. However, the family still wants to reach their grandfather's village. Before they leave, Tanaka gives them enough smoked pork to keep them fed during the rest of their journey. A few days later, the family reaches a river and suddenly discovers that there is no bridge to cross it. Yoshiyuki searches around the riverbank and finds some rope and pieces of wood. The family decides to use these materials to build a simple raft. First, the men take Mitsu, Yui, and their belongings across the river. After reaching the opposite side, Yoshiyuki and Kenji return to collect the bicycles. Suddenly, heavy rain begins to fall and they realize they need to hurry. Yoshiyuki and Kenji try to move the bicycles across as quickly as possible, but the raft cannot handle the extra weight. The raft suddenly breaks apart. Kenji gives up and swims back toward the others, while Yoshiyuki stubbornly continues holding onto the wooden raft. The bicycles eventually pull him underwater and the current carries him away. Mitsu and the children watch helplessly as Yoshiyuki disappears into the river. Once the rain stops, Kenji searches the area for his father, but finds only Yoshiyuki's toupee. The family immediately breaks down in grief. By the 94th day, the remaining family members are walking along the train tracks. Mitsu is still devastated by what happened to Yoshiyuki, and she has almost no strength left to continue. Kenji has to pull her forward so they can keep moving. While taking a break, they take some smoked pork from their bags and start eating. Suddenly, a dog approaches them and begins begging for food. Yui feels sorry for the animal and wants to give it something, but Kenji tells her not to. The dog quickly grabs the pork from Yui's hand and runs away. Soon, several more dogs appear and begin surrounding the family. One of them grabs Mitsu's bag with its teeth. She tries to pull it back but loses her balance and falls down the hill. The children immediately rush to help her and discover that she has broken her ankle. They help Mitsu stand up and continue the journey even though she can barely walk. The dogs return again, hoping to get more food. The family holds onto each other and prepares for the worst. Suddenly, a steam train appears on the same tracks. The dogs become frightened and run away. The train stops directly in front of the family and they quickly climb aboard. Inside, they find plenty of water bottles and many other people from Tokyo who are also trying to escape toward the countryside. A doctor examines Mitsu and treats her injured ankle. When the doctor asks about their father, the children become emotional and start crying. At the same time, Yoshiyuki is actually still alive. After being swept away by the river, he wakes up near the riverbank and tries to walk. However, he is extremely weak and soon collapses against a tractor. He suddenly notices the train passing in the distance, but he doesn't have enough strength to call for help. Luckily, he still has the flare in his pocket. With the last of his strength, he manages to light it up just in time. Mitsu suddenly notices the flare and realizes that Yoshiyuki is still alive. She immediately signals the train to stop so the children can run toward their father. After everything they have been through, the family is finally reunited. Later, while they are traveling on the train, Mitsu gives Yoshiyuki his toupee back, but he simply throws it away. As the train enters a tunnel, smoke from the engine starts coming inside through the windows. Everyone begins coughing and their faces become covered in black soot. Instead of getting upset, the family starts laughing when they see how dirty everyone looks. After many difficult days, the Suzuki family finally reaches their grandfather's village on the 108th day. Sasaki is shocked and emotional when he sees them because he never expected that they would finally come to visit him. The family settles down and begins a completely different life in the countryside. 2 years and 126 days later, the Suzukis have adapted to their new surroundings. They grow their own vegetables and spend their days fishing, sewing, and working together. One morning, Yoshiyuki wakes up after hearing a strange noise coming from outside. He follows the sound and discovers an old alarm clock ringing inside a storage building. Suddenly, music begins playing through the village speakers and all the neighbors rush outside. They are amazed to see the streetlights working again after such a long time. A few days later, the people who originally escaped Tokyo begin returning to the city. Television experts discuss several possible reasons behind the mysterious blackout. Some believe it was caused by a solar flare, while others suggest that a comet came too close to Earth. Another theory even points toward cyber terrorism. The true cause remains uncertain, but the blackout has completely changed the Suzuki family and the way they live. After everything the Suzuki family has experienced, they are no longer the same people they were before the blackout. They now spend much more time together and have learned to appreciate even the simplest parts of life. If you enjoyed this movie recap, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories like this. Thanks for watching.